Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. We see more of you all are joining us for yet another fabulous pricing webinar hosted by the Professional Pricing Society. We're excited to have you all here and thankful that you're spending your afternoon with us for this hour. My name is Megan Ford with the Professional Pricing Society, and you are tuned in, as you all are filing in, for the newest pricing webinar entitled Conjoint Analysis Demystified, a cutting-edge approach to pricing's most powerful research technique. This pricing webinar is hosted today in partnership with our friends at EPIC Conjoint, and we're excited to provide another value-packed hourly session for our pricing community. The Professional Pricing Society is proud to be the world's leading pricing resource for professionals, helping with education, online designation, career development, advancement. Also, we are a global network for pricers, and we invite you all to take a look and learn more about us at pricingsociety.com. There we offer a wealth of resources, as well as you can learn more about our online designation, the Certified Pricing Professional Designation. We have just revamped it. We're excited to teach you all more about that, learn more about our exclusive membership that we have. We are a constant resource that provides infinite wealth of value, inclusive of online summits, connected online trainings, and we invite you to take a look. So come check us out. Again, it's pricingsociety.com. I'll put that in the link. Today's webinar, all of our attendees are going to be on mute. So if you have any questions, we invite you to use the Ask a Question bar at the base of the dashboard below, or you can utilize the chat to the right. Even if you're watching in the replay, we will still check back for your questions, and there'll be a way that you can communicate with our presenters. We'll share that information as well. So no hesitations or worries there. Again, all of our attendees will receive access to the playback as well as the presentation deck. Please allow 2 full business days and check your inbox for that replay information. In the event that there is a technical issue throughout today's presentation, or for any reason that you have an audio or a visual issue, first check the chat area and we can communicate there. And if the webinar session drops, we PPS will reach out to you all via email and have additional communication and follow up thereafter. But we don't anticipate anything negative happening, but just in case. I'm going to tell you all a little bit about today's presenters and turn it over to them so we can get started with today's webinar. Again, it's entitled Conjoint Analysis Demystified, a cutting-edge approach to pricing's most powerful research technique. And today, today's webinar is in partnership with our friends at EPIC Conjoint. A little bit about today's presenters. First up, we have Matthew Johnston, the founder and CEO of EPIC Conjoint. I would like to share with you a little bit about Matthew's background. Matthew is a seasoned commercial marketing professional with over 20 years of pricing, product, and segmentation experience with international tier 1 brands. Utilizing his experience, he founded EPIC Conjoint in 2016. His extensive background in telecommunications as a former head of pricing at Telefonica, O2 Ireland, and Orodo Group, I might be butchering that, lends him to be quite the expert in this presentation today. And he's here in partnership with Tobias Yaus, the business and development pricing lead at EPIC Conjoint. Tobias is an experienced professional who successfully demonstrated his skills in business strategy, pricing, and market research in previous roles at Daimler, I think I'm butchering that as well. Apologies, Tobias. AG, Deloitte, and Mercedes-Benz. We know those 2 names. Today, heading quantitative research projects with top brands and management consultancies in various industries. We're very excited to have these 2 leaders from EPIC Conjoint joining us. Matthew and Tobias, thank you, welcome. I'm gonna turn it over to you for today's presentation.
Great, thank you, Megan, for very kind introductions. Hi, everybody. We're delighted to be here today, be given this opportunity to co-host this webinar, Conjoint Analysis, with PPS. I guess what we want to do today is prove that conjoint analysis is not the monster survey process that I guess the general perception has it. That the length of time it can take. I've done conjoints in the past. It's taken 2 to 3 months. The bandwidth it can suck up and the headspace. and indeed then to add insult to injury, the prohibitive cost, which meant it didn't really get conducted very often when I worked in telcos. And what I'm delighted to announce is that with the advancements in technology, specifically cloud and API integrations, automation has facilitated much more speed, agility, user cost effectiveness, and dare I say it, user friendliness into the conjoint analysis process, which in turn then enables a lot more use cases beyond the traditional, new product, new service launch, price setting. There are many, many more use cases that now can be addressed with conjoint analysis, and that's what we will go into a bit more detail today with you. Okay, just quickly then the agenda. We're going to go through some use cases and the importance of conjoint analysis in pricing. And then Toby is going to talk about some constraints of applying conjoint analysis and how, given the speed and the agility we've injected into the process, it requires a bit of a mindset shift in the approach to conjoint analysis. He'll go into more detail then on what it takes to conduct a powerful conjoint analysis rapidly. He'll then delve into our three-step process in more detail about designing the survey, distributing the survey, and then the results visualization analysis. Have a look at that. And he'll also then address some impactful pricing insights that can be generated within mere days anywhere in the world with our rapid conjoint solution. I'll then jump onto the platform and show you a case study where we'll actually jump in the simulators and we play around with some interesting scenarios. And then if we've time, Toby then take us through some best practices that we've learned from working with leading global brands, and then we'll field questions. So, without further ado, Megan actually, thankfully, introduced us. Just a bit of context. Up until about maybe 5 years ago, I was head of pricing in some telecom operations. And while I was a massive fan of conjoint analysis, we would have made some really successful trading decisions based on the results of conjoint surveys, I was highly frustrated with the process, the length of time, the expense, and it just meant that we couldn't do conjoint often enough. I have Megan, if you want to flip over to Toby there for a sec, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Megan, for the kind introduction. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And I just hope we provide valuable insights for you today, as well as some actionable recommendations, so that the next, I think we planned this to take 60 minutes, will be as worthwhile as possible for all of you.
Great. Megan, if you could come back to me, please. Okay, so what we're going to do is, love this quote, David Ogilvy. Consumers don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say. And this is the challenge. This is the massive challenge we have as commercial marketers, and particularly pricing people. And it's it's really compounded in this digital world we now live in, where brands can be destroyed overnight. Willingness to pay can change in an instant. But thankfully, there is a weapon at our disposal that can help us and see through that clutter and overcome this massive challenge. And that is value-based pricing. So for those who might not be too familiar with value-based pricing, it's setting prices through the lens of customer preferences and willingness to pay. So I heard a really, really novel expression whereby, products or insights value isn't generated in the factory, it's actually generated in the customer's head. And that's what value-based pricing attempts to do. And this is actually an interesting equation. I'm not sure if many have come across it, where it kind of sets out how important pricing is in the context of the four marketing Ps in terms of its size, but also its position as the denominator here. So this is analogous, obviously, to the organizations we work in. How critical pricing is to the success of the companies we work in. But very often, businesses get this massively wrong, and they tend to focus on cost-based pricing and even competitive-based pricing, and just get fixated on these pricing methods, or basing their pricing around these types of analysis. When in actual fact, to optimize your pricing, you really need to overlay those with value-based pricing methodologies. So it's critical that all three come into play when you're trying to optimize your pricing. And how do we do this? Well, conjoint analysis really is the key, and it's recognized as probably the most rigorous methodology for determining value-based prices, to determine the optimal prices, willingness to pay, price elasticity, and optimal features of a product or service. And why is it recognized as the kind of the most go-to survey methodology? It's because fundamentally it's underpinned with trade-off analysis. So as humans, we really value benchmarking and comparing contrasting options when we in the purchase decision context, and that's what Conjoint tries to do. It tries to replicate a real purchase decision as closely as possible, and this is why we value it head and shoulders above some other pricing methodologies, survey methodologies. And even the big brands can get this wrong when they don't conduct conjoint analysis. This famous case where Audi, when they launched the Q7 back in 2006, ignored doing pricing research. They totally ignored what the price elasticity for this vehicle was. If they'd gone out and conducted a conjoint study at the time, they would have realized what kind of price sensitivity the target customers were exhibiting. And the outcome of this, in hindsight, was they left about €250 million on the table by underpricing that vehicle by about €3,500. So massive, catastrophic mistake made there by arguably one of the world's biggest brands. When it's done right, the economist would have used conjoint analysis to really kind of underpin this piece of, I guess, behavioral pricing approach, where when they launched their online subscription and priced it, roughly half the price of their print web subscription, the sales were really skewed towards the lower price point, and that's natural. We know that. But when they actually introduce a third product into the middle and price that at the highest price point as well, that then shifted the value perception towards the print and web subscription and totally reversed the share and the mix of sales and of subscribers in that. So that's a good example of when conjoint is used and successfly. And I guess the IKEA is probably the masters of value-based pricing. And our understanding is when IKEA roll into various markets around the world, one of the first things they do is actually they establish willingness to pay for maybe some of their key hero products. And then go to their engineers and say, this is the price, this is the willingness to pay, now create this product with X margin to be made. So they really take it to the nth degree. And we like to look at from the price setting process, we kind of look at it through this lens. And as we move from left to right, the price setting or price changes is that process has been de-risked as we go. So we go from a hunch, and believe me, there are plenty of organizations that launch or set prices based on hunches or change prices based on hunches. But adding another layer of rigor in terms of looking at maybe behavioral data or previous transactional data to try and get a sense for maybe customer segments and whatnot, that definitely gets you in terms of degrees of confidence. It gets you closer to your target. Going one step further, conducting customer surveys, whether it be albeit quant or qual or both, injects another degree of confidence into the process. And then finally, capping it off just close to launch with a conjoint trade-off analysis by actually going out to the target customers and asking them, is this the product you want? Are these the features you want? And how much are you willing to pay for it? And very often, this is kind of the best practice approach to either setting prices or changing prices. Now, I'd like to hand over to Toby. Megan, please.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So I think we want to show the slide. I think what became obvious is the importance of value-based pricing today. And we also see this in our client projects. It's definitely a hot topic for many. So now, without becoming too academical here, what exactly is the role of conjoint analysis in pricing, and why is it such a great pricing methodology? So we see the revenue function here in the middle. Price times quantity equals to revenue. That's nothing new. So what's unique about Conjoint here is that it allows us to get super valuable insights for each of the revenue contributors, so for price and quantity. So regarding the price, the biggest benefit is that we can calculate a willingness to pay for a whole product or service, but we can also calculate the marginal willingness to pay. So the marginal willingness to pay tells us how much more on average consumer is willing to pay for a feature upgrade or for a design change. And of course, common sense tells us that a consumer finds a value in getting a design upgrade or a slightly improved, better product. But Conjoint can really tell us what exactly this person's willing to spend for having this advantage or the design upgrade. So this means that we can translate perceived customer value into a monetary unit, so that in the end we can attach a dollar. So in the end we can express it in dollar terms. So therefore, willingness to pay is a really easy to communicate concept, but per se it does not take the change in demand or quantity into consideration. So for this reason, another metric needs to be considered, and that's the price elasticity of demand. Probably most of you are familiar with that. And fortunately, conjoint analysis can measure the price elasticity of demand too. It tells us by how much the demand for a product sinks if we raise the price. So therefore, we can answer the question, what is the optimal revenue or profit or volume maximizing price for your product? And by measuring price elasticity of demand, we can also evaluate how strong your brand and product is and whether the demand for it is rather elastic or inelastic. So that's why price elasticity of demand is overall a more complex metric, since it considers the balance between changes in price and demand. But simulators can help you understand the effects in a very practical way. So on the next slide, we see a sneak peek of what Matt will demonstrate later on the EPIC Conjoint platform. This is a price optimization scenario in our simulator. So the learnings that we generated in terms of attribute preferences and price elasticity are all brought to one chart, plotting a revenue curve in the bell shape that you can see here, with possible prices on the x-axis and simulated market share on the y-axis. So you can really experience the effect of your pricing and product decisions and optimize your product and price here. And I think that's a great way to apply the willingness to pay and price elasticity learnings. And this is also where our clients love to simulate different price, product, or competitive threat scenarios. Most importantly, we can also generate learnings for various use cases and stakeholders. So I would like to talk about them in the next slide. At EPIC Conjoint, we primarily work with really 3 stakeholder groups, which are at the same time the greatest beneficiaries of conjoint analysis insights as well. And we call them pricing gurus, product heroes, and insight leaders. So while the product development and go-to-market teams and market researchers might be especially interested in the question, do we offer the right product to the right people? Pricing gurus or pricing professionals, which probably most of you are, eventually want to know, can we raise the price of our product, and which are the best product variants to offer for top-line growth? So therefore, the classic pricing conjoint use case is identifying optimal product features and prices for new products and services, oftentimes right before our product launch. But we can also investigate additional use cases with conjoint analysis. So first, we can analyze willingness to pay and price elasticity at a product and customer segment level anytime, and even on an individual level, if you remember whom you sent the Conjoint Analysis survey to. So that way we can analyze each of these segments in detail, identify similarities or differences, and identify customer groups that could potentially form a new segment in your go-to-market strategy. Also, this enables different options. So for example, portfolio optimization. You can refresh and rebalance your product and pricing portfolio and test, for example, new decoys, such as implementing like a good, better, best model, as seen in Matt's The Economist example previously. We also see in our daily work that global trends such as servitization or more dynamic pricing models keep our partner companies busy. And conjoint analysis can, in fact, de-risk decisions regarding new pricing or charging models by simply testing their efficiency and market acceptance. In a very similar fashion, you can measure the impact of discounting and price promotions, so you can see whether they will have the effect you're hoping for, or might, like another offer or another marketing claim, maybe have a more desired effect. So that's also something we can analyze. My personal favorites are wargaming scenarios in the market simulator. Matt will take a look at this later as well, but you can really get a great feeling for the predicted impact of your and your competitors' product and pricing decision in a competitive market, which eventually could help outperforming your competitors. And on EPIC Conjoint's platform, we also offer some smart business case tools that can help you to not only simulate and measure market share, but also plot revenue, costs, and profits in one chart. So therefore, you can get a great feeling for the profitability of different business models or products. So I hope this overview helped to kind of get a better understanding of the variety of questions Conjoint, in fact, can help answering. So let's move to the next topic on the upcoming slides. And now that we all know what conjoint analysis is and how it could help you in different use cases, let's really discuss the key topic of this webinar, which is conjoint analysis demystified. So what does this actually mean? Let's start with a visibly frustrated person on the next slide. And the question is, like, looking at the huge benefits conjoint analysis can provide, of course, the question is, if it's such a great tool, why is it only applied so sporadically? And Matt already hinted it in his intro to the presentation, and we experience every day starting a conjoint project is a quite big deal for both international corporations, SME companies, even for consultancies or market research agencies. So why is that? On the next slide, let's take a look at the kind of traditional constraints out there, which currently prevent companies to apply and benefit from conjoints more frequently. So as you can see, we can essentially bring it down to 4 key pain points. So the perception is that conjoint takes a lot of time, even months, is therefore not suited to be applied quickly or in an agile way. On top, some things it requires a lot of your team's budget, and conjoint is as complicated as it is forbiddingly expensive. So unfortunately, all of this could hold true, and we see examples for this in our day-to-day discussions with new clients. But, and this is the good message, conjoint does not need to be rocket science, and it also must not be as resource consuming as like a moon landing mission. So in a couple of minutes, Matt will also explain how we address these pain points in our approach and what are the benefits of working together with EPIC Conjoint. But on this slide, I would quickly would like to talk about why these constraints, like this belief we just talked about, is really problematic. So here we see a very simplified go-to-market process. You might have an idea, you conduct your R&D, and typically you do the market research, maybe in the form of a conjoint, right before the product launch. But more often than not, we also see the infamous launch and pray tactic is actually also a common practice as well. So this means no sufficient concept testing is done whatsoever. But if conjoint analysis was more agile, less costly, and like overall better experience for everybody, kind of as opposed to the previously described behemoth of a project, you could benefit from these insights actually at each stage of your product development and go-to-market process. So that way you can really ensure the product market fit. And if we think all the way back to the value-based pricing process that Matt has introduced, we can also ensure that the product that you're developing does not exceed the target group's willingness to pay. So in that sense, a certain mentality shift is necessary when it comes to conjoint analysis. This is what we would like to promote in this webinar as well. And Matt will now talk you through kind of our conjoint analysis approach. What's EPIC Conjoint and where are we coming from?
So yeah, thanks, Toby. Okay, so yeah, our mission state is to demystify and democratize conjoint analysis. As Toby said, there is perception that it's rocket science, and we're here to show you that actually that's now misguided. And it's, you know, it doesn't require, even though it is a very sophisticated research methodology in terms of there are some really sophisticated AI-powered algorithms underpinning the platform. Nevertheless, what we've figured out is we can box that complexity and sophistication into a back end, and by putting a user-friendly interface on the front end, we can inject a lot more speed, agility, and user-friendliness into the conjoint analysis process from end to end. And so much so, in fact, that we now becoming known as and this is one of our clients coined this term, the rapid conjoint. We're the home of rapid conjoint. And you know, we don't joke. We can turn survey. We say full conjoint surveys, both in a B2C and a B2B context. We can turn them around within, we say, 3 business days. In some cases, B2C can be even faster. And some of the bigger markets for our clients operate in, we can turn them around within a day even. And that's facilitated by the automation of the process end to end. And you know, we work a lot with groups, so you know, who operations in many just markets spread around the world, and so geographically we're not challenged either. We work with panel providers, respondent panel providers, who pretty much give us coverage in any market worth calling a market I guess, around the world. And so with our platform, our rapid conjoint platform or solution, these are the 6 benefits really are, covering insights. We eliminate the guesswork, and we rely on strong evidence-driven foundation for strategic decisions. In terms of speed of turnaround, as I said, we can typically turn around surveys within 1 to 3 days. We drive growth. We use powerful market and price optimization simulators to help clients, or the clients use them, in fact, to create and maintain competitive advantage. We also then support the whole process with our pricing expertise. So we're on hand at any stage during the process, whether it's the survey design stage, the distribution of the survey stage, and indeed the results analysis and interpretation. We're on hand to help at any point. And it is a very cost-effective solution. It can be done at a flat price, which is pretty much having written big checks to market research agencies in the past myself. It's at a fraction of the price. So fraction of the speed and a fraction of the price. That's our value proposition. And again, we can do this worldwide within a couple of clicks. Having designed a survey, we can drop that survey in any market, pretty much worldwide. Whether it's a B2B, B2C is in a lot of markets. B2B, we can rely on a combination of both the client's target list and panel providers specializing in B2B panels. And this is just an example of the clients we work with. They tend to be, some of the world's most successful brands, crossing a number of different sectors. We also work with market research agencies, management consulting firms, pricing boutique consultancies. So it's as you can see, it's very popular, and indeed some academic institutions, the London Business School and Columbia University. So that should give you a feel for the caliber of clients, and these clients have many questions that need to be addressed all around the world, and that's why they trust our platform and our solution to help answer those. And don't just take it from us. I'd say most pricing folks are very familiar with a pricing guru, Stefan Lisieux. Stefan is very familiar with our solution and has highly acclaimed it, and we're delighted with that, with the vote of confidence from Stefan. So I'm just going to hand back over to Toby to kind of take us through that 3-step process I mentioned at the start.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So now that everybody knows who's EPIC Conjoint, let's jump back to the basics. I would like to talk you through the information needed for a conjoint project, and introduce really straightforward survey process that could be implemented in your team as well. So what it takes, that's what you can see on this slide. Again, the key message is conjoint analysis really must not be rocket science. The input information needed to design and conduct a powerful survey is usually available in the company, and our partner companies prove this every day as well. So at EPIC Conjoint, we help companies to take this available input information and bring it into a best practice survey design that really answers your burning question. So you could say, what's the secret sauce? What do we need to consider? You really need to know 2 things. First, whom are you targeting? Who is a target group, and therefore the audience that you like to send the survey to? You should define criteria, who belongs to this target group and who doesn't. And eventually we can help to distribute the survey among the target group. Second, equally as important, what are you targeting them with? So here we are focusing on the tested product or service. And ideally, a cross-functional team sits together and gathers necessary input information that we will actually see on the next slide. So here we see the information needed for a survey. So we typically need to identify a range of substitute products that form your customer's consideration set. So different products that they might think of if they think of your product, solution, or service. We then define product features for the conjoint survey. These are the most important independent determinants of choice for your customers. So you could also say these are the product characteristics that really matter for the customer and which he needs to decide for one or the other product. Then we formulate feature levels that are concrete and unambiguous, so as well as mutually exclusive. That's important as well. So if we, for example, take a look at the cereal bar survey here on the right, the sugar content would form a product feature, while the different grams of sugar then would represent a unique product feature level. Last but not least, we define a tested price range. So typically the tested price range is some percentages higher and lower than the tested consideration set's lowest and highest prices. So it should be around there. And again, we experience that this kind of input information is really readily available in companies, and experts can help you designing a best practice survey design with it that can be turned around quite quickly, as Matt already said. So now that we know the necessary information needed, let's take a look at the agile conjoint analysis process on the next slide. And this is really straightforward. So you need to prepare the input information and design the survey together with an in-house, if you have one, or an external conjoint expert, and choose a powerful conjoint survey platform. Then you define criteria for your target audience and you find a way to distribute the survey. On the EPIC Conjoint platform, we have like multiple ways to distribute surveys. So however respondent might be reachable, we find a way to reach them. And in the third step, which is a no-brainer as well, we interpret the results. And it's not only important that you have accurate results, it's also important that they are easily communicated. So that's why we really pay much attention on the platform, that everything is in powerful charts, etc., that can be exported as well. So that the communication of the survey results are really works across departments. And as we have seen, there are also several stakeholders in your company as well for a good conjoint study. Again, if you choose to work with us, we do not only provide the survey platform, but also guide you through each of those survey steps. And now Matt will introduce you to the results section of a smartphone survey on the EPIC Conjoint platform, and introduce you, get a look and feel of how a conjoint platform could look like. So over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Toby. Yeah, just looking at time here, folks. So yeah, spend about 5-10 minutes, just kind of give you a teaser, flavor for the powerful insights that can be generated in this interactive results dashboard. This particular survey is one of our demo surveys, but actually it was a live survey that we did conduct in the UK market. It's a premium smartphone survey. So we actually had 4 phones. If you look at the x-axis in this chart, you will see the 4 phones, the moving from left to right. We have the camera megapixel, the operating system, screen size, battery life, memory, water protection, and price. So these are the attributes or the features that we tested in this platform. In fact, let me I'm going to clear off features here, all filters. What we can see here, sorry, apologies, 1 second. Bear with me one sec, folks. I'll just jump back. Yeah, sorry, this is the one I want to show you. So what we see, this is our relative feature level preference chart. So we are literally taking the regression coefficients and translating them into a language I guess people understand. We're capturing customers' preferences for the various attributes of the product or service. So in this case, the purple or the lilac color line is the actual 4 phones, and we can see these are linear numbers. They can be compared to each other, not only within the same attribute, but also across the attributes over to price. So we can see the iPhone XS amongst the 201 completed surveys, respondents completed surveys. The iPhone XS is commanding the highest preference score, closely followed by the Samsung S10, a big drop to the Huawei, and then lower again for the OnePlus. Now, looking across to the other attributes, we can see the flatter the line, the more indifference the respondents are expressing towards the attribute level. So there is a bit of a kick up here for the 40 megapixel camera, and also for the highest memory. But we can see that the price sign, this is very much a product stroke brand driven survey, or it's a set of results. And what we can now do is actually drill in based on the questions we can ask before the choice cards and after the choice cards. We can now drill in and see, let's have a look at Apple customers, and we see a very different complexion on this chart. We see a massive jump, and this just exudes or illustrates the fanaticism Apple customers have about their iPhones. So a huge jump here, a massive jump to the Samsung, even flatter lines for the other attributes, and indeed in price. So they're not very price sensitive customers. Changing this to look at the Samsung respondents, you'll see the reverse, equally fanatical about their own brand and phones. The big drop to the Huawei. A little bit more orientation or preference towards the more functional aspects of the phones, but again, not so price sensitive. Compared to the Huawei customers, and really interestingly, this would scream alarm bells if Huawei had conducted this conjoint study, because this indicates the highest preference score is going to a Samsung, which would indicate probably that when these customers go to change their smartphones, they're more likely to take a Samsung. And I think this is a reflection of all the bad PR Huawei have gotten over the past couple of years. Also, what we can see is, and this is kind of typical of Huawei customers, they are more interested in the functional aspects of the smartphone. So you'll see a bigger jump there, nearly as high as the preference score for the phone itself, going towards the camera megapixel, and equally then the memory, and a little steeper curve here on the price line to indicate that these are probably a little bit more price sensitive as well. Stepping down, sorry, let me just clear off the filters, coming down a level. On the right hand side, we have relative feature importance. So we actually come up a level and just look at the attributes themselves, and we can see in terms of the purchase decision, the mobile phone commands about nearly 45% of the importance, followed by price, followed by memory, camera megapixel, and so on. And very often these can actually inform then the communications or the messages, the advertising messages that when particularly in a go to market context or new product launch context. On the left hand side, we have the ideal product. No surprise there. It's the best features at the lowest price. And we also capture price elasticity. So we capture the gradient of that curve. We take the preference scores as a proxy for demand, and that's how we calculate price elasticity. Now, taking these learnings into a business context, we have our market share simulator here. So let me just put the names on this. The purple bars are the volume shares. The 5 bars sum to 100%, and the green bars columns are actually the revenue. So it's the volume times the price point of the phone. So here's the phones actually in the concept matrix table below. You'll see the phones themselves and the features and their levels. Now, what we can do here, if you look over at the 1+6 model, okay, they're having a pretty tough time in the market, but if the marketing director, product director for 1+6 had conducted this conjoint, they would take, using the learnings and the insights, they for their next phone, the 1+7, they could start to apply these insights to generate. If you look at the purple bar, we increased about a 0.5%. Say if we move to a 40 megapixel camera matching the Huawei phone, we add another maybe 2.5% to our market share as we go down through, matching Huawei. In terms of memory and battery length, this should, if you remember, memory was the third most important attribute. And what if we could, we have a new equipment manufacturer, even though we tested 4 distinct price points, we can, because of the learnings around price sensitivity, price elasticity, we can then extrapolate those learnings and test any price point. So now we can see, the 1+7 is very much back in the game here. Now, taking this one step further, by the way, just to point out, this our clients love, they get access to the platform. Once the survey closes, they get access to the results dashboard, and they love rolling up their sleeves and playing around with all of these attribute levels just to see the impact. Every simulation can be bookmarked, given a name, a relevant name, and that appears down in this table. And all of these charts and tables that you'll see can be exported to either PDF, XLS, or PowerPoint. Okay, let's focus on price. Let's just go back to the standard one again. And if you see here, price optimization, what we can now do is actually drill into, so say I'm the pricing director for the iPhone XS, and I want to see what's my optimal price for this phone. What happens here? The green curve, this is a revenue curve. So we're taking the preference scores and the price sensitivities, and we're mapping the revenue curve. And what we can see here actually is the top of the revenue curve corresponds to a price point of £829.48. When in actual fact, and notwithstanding Apple's premium pricing strategy, they're over here at $999. So, arguably they're leaving money on the table, by pricing that phone at $999. We also capture the price sensitivity for this particular phone, and indeed we can apply all the filters can be applied to all of these charts and tables as well. So you can really drill into subs, customer segment levels because very often the devil is in the detail. So what we can do here is just to understand what willingness to pay. Toby mentioned about margin willingness. What would happen if I could make that phone a 40 megapixel camera? We'll see the optimal price jump to £883. So we added about £53 in willingness to pay by going from a 12 to a 40 megapixel camera. Another feature of this is wargaming mode. So if we just go back to the 12, what if Samsung reduced their price in a promotional context? So what will happen? Now, if revenue maximization is our goal, we can actually say that instead of chasing and reacting to Samsung's price reduction, in actual fact, to maximize revenue, again, taking the learnings about the preferences, the feature preferences of the product, of the iPhone XS, and the price sensitivity of the customers, they would maximize revenue by increasing the price of the phone by a couple of pounds. So these are the kind of insights that you can really kind of start to really delve into and extract. Just to point out, we do have a business casing mode to this as well, whereby for each of the attributes levels, you can add in a cost. And then we can create a cost equation, and then revenue minus cost is profit. And by clicking this, then we can place a profit lens across both the volume share chart and the price optimization. So if it's actually profit optimization, that's the higher price is required to optimize profits. Okay, so that's a quick flavor. If there's plenty more to show, and if you do want to delve in a little bit deeper, we're very happy to conduct a demonstration with yourself. Just drop us a line. Okay, back to Toby, please.
Good job squeezing that much information to 10 minutes only. Looking at the time, I think I would like to summarize some more key learnings for you, and would also give you some best practices. So if we can take the focus again on the slides, please.
Can you see?
Yeah, perfect. I can see you. Thank you. So what are the key learnings? And I think that became very clear. We have learnings about customer appetite for both B2C and B2B companies. So we clearly see and can identify product features and preferences. And we also learn how important they are for your customer purchasing decisions. We can do wargaming scenarios, so where you can jump right into the platform, use the simulator to plan own price and product decisions, and to anticipate competitor moves and reactions as well. And we identified the price elasticity of demand and willingness to pay for different customer segments that we can kind of simulate by using the filters that Matt has shown. Therefore, we can identify an optimal price point for each segment. So moving on to the next slide, I would like to share some best practices with you that you should memorize maybe for your next Conjoint Survey project. This will also be the last slide to be presented. So I think afterwards we have quite some additional minutes for your questions. So best practices. First of all, and really, really important, do not overcomplicate things and keep it focused. So try to not squeeze too many burning questions into one Conjoint survey, since it is oftentimes better to design one survey for one or two burning questions only. And more agile and less costly Conjoint surveys do make it possible to launch a perfectly tailored survey specifically for each research purpose. So I think here this mentality change really is important, that you don't have to squeeze everything into one survey. You have multiple surveys, design a perfectly tailored survey for each of those questions and launch them very quickly. Second, do guarantee statistical significance of results by asking a representative respondent panel. This relates to another mistake that we see quite often if we look at the results that clients have done with other platforms, for example, that simply not enough responses are gathered. So on EPIC Conjoint's platform, we typically rely on 200 to 300 successful completes to ensure the statistical significance, and the platform also guides you exactly to how many completes you need to guarantee the significance of results. The third one is that Conjoint surveys are really a great opportunity to ask additional questions that you really want to have answered from your target audience. And as seen during Matt's presentation of Conjoint results, you can also use these questions as filters for survey analysis. So next to the choice cards that we are testing anyway in the Conjoint project, ask surrounding questions. The fourth one is that it's always great to have a storyline throughout your survey, and start the survey with introducing the tested product and explaining the feature levels. Eventually, you want to have like solid product decisions from the respondents. So really make sure a respondent understands the product and what you'd like to ask him. Before you start a survey project, we advise you to write down a research brief. So specify the burning questions you like to have answered, which really makes it way easier during designing an insightful survey that answer your questions that you have wrote down in your research brief. 6 is our recommendation is also to invite a cross-functional team to a survey analysis call. So for example, every time that we have launched a survey, we take a quick look at the survey together with the client. And like a cross-functional team consistent of different Conjoint stakeholders. Each of them will take a look at the results from another point of view, maybe more from a marketing point of view, pricing point of view, product point of view, and this really enables a deeper understanding of the results. And we've also seen that there are multiple stakeholder groups for a good Conjoint study. And the 7th and last best practice is more of an appeal than an advice. And the appeal is do not launch and pray, but really rely on data-driven evidence and benefit from impactful Conjoint survey insights more frequently. So choose the tools that suit your research project best and that has also proven their success, and cooperate with experts to inject best practices into your survey process if you don't consider yourself like a Conjoint expert. On the next slide, again, the reminder, be aware of whom are you targeting and what are you targeting them with, the 2 most key essential questions for almost each survey and for every survey success. So on the next slide, I think that's actually it from our side. So thank you everybody for your attention, and also a huge thank you for PPS for organizing this event. Thank you, Megan. Of course, if you plan your next Conjoint analysis or you'd like to know more, we are more than happy to jump on a quick informal call with you anytime. You can just reach out to Matt or me. And Megan, I think we have some more minutes for the FAQ session now.
Everyone there? Couldn't get my mic off mute. Thank you, gentlemen. So much. I was talking to myself and couldn't get off mute. Really quickly, I want to thank you all for a great presentation to share all about EPIC Conjoint's analysis techniques and tools. Everyone, you will have access to the replay. These are just my quick closing notes. And I'm then going to turn it back over to our experts so we can answer some of these great questions in the Q&A. I see we've had quite a few come in. There's still plenty of time for those of you left. If you want to ask questions live of our experts about your tool, use the Ask a Question bar below and we'll get right into it. But if you have to leave now or watching the replay, no worries. We will send out an information to all of you all in your inbox within 48 hours or 2 business days, including the link, the slide deck, and the presentation for all of you all to access. And the contact information from your EPIC Conjoint experts will also be included in the email as well. So I think that's it. I've also shared where you can find Pricing Society, more information about us online. Visit the website. We've got some things upcoming in the fall and in the winter. We can't wait to share with you all. And without further ado, let's jump into this Q&A. Bias, Matthew, you ready?
Sure.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into the questions that came from our attendees first.
Right.
Let's start with the first question. Can this methodology be used with B2B software where there are few prospects, customers, users, and there are many significant features?
That can be a challenge if there's few prospects. From the statistical significance perspective, there is a minimum, as Toby mentioned, when we're designing the Conjoint study survey with clients, there is a limited number of concepts we can test. So we limit it to 10 concepts or products and up to 8 attributes. And really the limit of 8 attributes is because respondents really can't digest any more than that. It's just too much. Typically in the B2B context, where there are challenges where companies find it hard to identify those top 8 attributes, that's where a max diff would be recommended as a precursor then to the conjoint. So the outputs then of the max diff then would be input into the concept matrix, and then the platform will tell us what is the minimum number of completed surveys we would need for statistical significance. Now, notwithstanding, but in the B2B context, as opposed to a B2C, we do require, or less completed surveys are typically required, because the assumption is that the respondents are more familiar with the products being tested, and you can get more rigor and precision on that by setting specific screen out questions to do that. So it depends. It depends how many products you're testing, how many attributes you're testing, to ensure statistical significance.
Mm. I think the other part of the question was what do we do in B2B context if there are only a few like prospects, customer users? So here we can then, what Matt just said, we can increase the number of choice cards, individual choices each respondent has to answer. Or we can try what we do quite often, we try to supplement the kind of email addresses that the client could give us to send the survey to through dedicated panel providers. So there are some specialized panel providers out there that can help you to reach decision makers in your industry that we would align with the client. And through that, usually we can also ensure to get some high qualitative additional responses also for your B2B survey.
Can't hear you.
Megan, so are you
You're on mute again, I think. Yeah.
I did it again.
Okay.
Sorry about that, gentlemen. I was saying thank you. We've got one more question. We got a few more questions. 1 second. And the next one is, how do you take volume discount into consideration in your conjoint analysis?
So in terms of volume discounting, we actually, what we showed today was actually underpinned our choice card conjoint. But we have a new product, shelf conjoint, which replicates the supermarket shelf, the grocery supermarket shelf, and how we can play around with volume or promotional types. So, buy 2, get 3, pure discounting, percentage discounting. So they can all be catered for on the platform. And, in the use case I showed you on the platform, that at one price point, we can actually have 2 price points in there. So we very often clients will have the retail price and then the final price as well, and we can understand where the customer's preferences lie from that perspective. Megan?
Next question is coming up. We're going to do, is it possible to conduct a face-to-face interview with your survey tool?
Yes, it is. So one of the survey distribution methods is actually just exporting the survey links into XLS or PowerPoint or Word, which then can be taken onto the street by a field agency using a tablet or whatnot to actually conduct the surveys face to face in a mall or anywhere on a street corner or whatnot.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our next question, this is coming from Rishi. Hi, Rishi. In a B2C industry, for example, health and wellness, where there are less differentiated product attributes, how should an organization decide product attributes to add within their survey for the Conjoint simulator?
So in that context, I mean, yeah, look at the more commoditized the market or the sector, it definitely is more difficult. So we see that now in telcos, where data and voice and messaging have become commoditized products, and now they're testing more IoT type products, added value products, content. So trying to bring, and also they're testing different payment models, upfront plus a description and various levels between it, to try and find that optimal balance between an upfront price for a device like a tracker and the optimal monthly subscription fee for that as well. So it is really about trying to identify and pull out any USPs, and sometimes they're not as transparent or as evident. But if for a conjoint, you really only need minimum of two to three attributes. So very often the price, the brand, and a particular feature. And also you can be creative. You can apply artistic license and make up features. They don't have to be actually features in the marketplace. We can make up features to get customers' reactions to some ideas you might have.
Yeah. And also in this health and wellness B2C industry, so if we, for example, like take a piece of soap or something, in the end, we would like to present the product in the survey as it also presented to the client, to the purchaser in the end. So what we do for those kind of surveys also quite often, Matt, is that we kind of test different kind of marketing claims as well, like all organic ingredients as opposed to non-organic ingredients, kind of this kind of more subtle feature levels, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We have another question from Rishi. In an industry where brand equity value is relatively low, recommended to define brand into three categories: good, better, and best, in lieu of the actual brand names in the Conjoint survey. What are your thoughts to this?
Oh, so you're productizing the actual offers at that point. In that context, it would be, I mean, it is worth testing both. You can test both, and we've done that, where the brand's logo is involved, but also, whether it's good, better, best, or gold, silver, bronze, they actually can be tested in a conjoint as well to see which ones resonate strongest.
Okay, thank you. Nothing from Tobias. Okay. Thank you very much.
No additions.
No worries, not a problem. Another question, this is coming from, I believe I'm pronouncing it properly. If not, apologies. Niraj. In terms of survey response rate, what would be considered a decent response? What are the methods used to segment respondents based on customer profiles?
So in terms of the methods, up front, if you can ask screen out questions and segmentation questions that will address any segments, any data you require from the respondents, and those in turn, as Toby said, the results of those questions actually can be used as filters in the survey. It's Toby. Have you anything to add to that?
More to the first part of the question in terms of the response rates. So we see it quite differently, like among different surveys. It also depends. So sometimes when you run a survey through a panel provider, where kind of the panelists are paid to participate in the survey, they're quite like equal, I would say. So It also, of course, depends on kind of the segment questions and how rigor you are in kind of, how niche the target group is that you would like to reach out to. But usually, so we always calculate very conservatively with like a completion rate of 5%. That's what's usually the case. But when it comes to the survey distribution, I've quite had a pretty interesting example a couple of days ago. Was a company that has just like a very enthusiastic kind of customer base. And when you send out a survey, you should also always think about like incentive that you could give survey participants to like take the time and do the survey. And it turns out that a very good incentive for their very enthusiastic customer base. And we had like 500 responses within like 12 hours, and it was a response rate of, I would say 60 to 70% almost. So there's really not that much of an average. It always depends, I think, on the individual case.
And also, when you're considering segments and you have predefined segments, you can set quota questions around those segments as well. So you want 100, 18 to 24, 100 from the 25 to 34 bracket. So you can be very specific, and then you can drive into those using the filters. You can drive into, and we actually allow results to be shown down up to or down as far as 10 completed surveys. But obviously, the lower you get, the more directional. That's the caveat. The more directional the results are.
Yeah. And that maybe in that context as well, it really depends on, like, in the end, we would like to capture responses that are kind of high quality, of people that took the time to take the survey, etc. So we have like some quality measures in the background that, for example, if we see people just rushing through the survey or always clicking kind of the same options, those will be automatically sorted out, so that those kind of responses are not even kind of taking into the calculation for your survey. Certainly a response rate is one. I usually always look at a completion rate and kind of the rate of people that is actually kind of represented in the survey in the end after completion, after quality measures.
Right. We're going to go through the last few. That was a great answer. Can you all hear me? Am I off mute?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Oh. All right. We had a few follow-ups from Rishi's question earlier. Health and wellness digital solution question. He was talking about digital solutions going backwards and not necessarily tangible marketing products like a soap. So his follow-up question is, would your answer change? And I would assume probably not.
No, we too. Well, Toby, what's working with some car brands, tests applications and whatnot. No, so equally applicable in that context.
No. Absolutely. Okay, we've got another from Jim. Is there anything you all would like to add about the design of the tool? For example, how many attributes, how many decision cards, and how many respondents?
Yeah, so when we're designing the survey, I guess relying on my experience designing surveys in the past and more traditional route, it's, the frustration, it was very tedious, it was very bottom up. You were trying to match and contrast feature levels. Whereas commercial marketers and pricing people, we look at the overall proposition. So that's what we actually facilitate when you're designing the survey, is actually putting in the product or the proposition as you would see it on a website or a piece of collateral. So we have, again, we maximize the maximum number of attributes you can have is 8. Anything beyond that, you lose the respondents, and then the impact on the integrity of the quality of the answers. And we allow you to test up to 8 or up to 10 concepts. So that typically covers, your new concept idea, your existing current offer or proposition in the market, plus your competitors. So that's pretty much 95% of use of case studies we can cover with those parameters.
Okay. So our last question is we got two more. Is choice-based conjoint the only recommended conjoint methodology, or do you offer additional variations? For example, menu-based or shelf conjoint?
Toby, if you want to. Hi, Toby.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Okay, I'll ask
we
it
do.
again.
Sorry, we do. We do offer. So both choice-based conjoint and shelf-based conjoint. In fact, we're working with some pretty large brands at the moment, developing the shelf-based. It's at MVP stage. We're working with 3 large global brands, actually developing that to bring to market. So, and down the road, we will offer other survey methodologies, MaxDiff being one that's coming along within the next two months. Menu-based conjoint, and some of the more pricing-oriented studies, Gaber Granger and Van Westendorp. We do get asked from time to time. We can't do those, but we will formally introduce them as products, survey products on the platform within the next probably 4 to 6 months.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got a question about, do you all recommend distributing surveys to existing customers? And if so, how could you support in distributing the survey to wider audiences?
Toby, you got this?
Yeah, so we send surveys to existing customers. So how it would work is that we would kind of discuss with the client, to whom do you want to distribute to, do you have email addresses of those customers? We then have 2 options. Either we provide the partner company with survey links that they can distribute among their own customers, or they would send us kind of a CSV or Excel list of email addresses that we would distribute through our own survey platform. If, for example, we have the case, and I'm doing such a survey currently, where we are reaching out to both existing customers plus potential customers, to just get like a feel of how different maybe both would answer as well. We actually supplement with respondents coming through dedicated survey providers. So Matt and me, we of course have worked with many international panel providers a couple of times already. So we would reach out to them, would tell them kind of the scope of the project, and they would make sure that the respondents we then send the survey to fulfill those necessary data points. Or if it's like a overall B2C survey, let's say in the automotive space, we also have an API connection on the platform, so that you can even very seamlessly distribute a survey to, for example, Cint. It's an international panel provider company. So you could just like specify the country, the age group, the gender, and the industry, and then you could send a survey into that specific market within like minutes.
Thank you. We've got another question. What is the best pricing analysis to price a new product between Conjoint and /Van Westendorp? And then a follow-up or an add-on to that was, can you cross both in the same survey?
Yeah, look, at Van Westendorp, they can be complementary in terms of identifying ranges of pricing to bring into a conjoint study. Van Westendorp can be used to identify the range of prices. If for brands or companies that aren't familiar, maybe it's a new product category that they're going into, or a blue sky product they want to test. So yeah, the Van Westendorp can be done, but Our preference is, or strong preference is for Conjoint because it's underpinned with trade-off analysis. And that's the way we make purchase decisions. We don't like to make decisions, all decisions without some kind of a compare and contrast. And that's just not there in the Van Westendorp. It's kind of a very artificial survey context where people are asked for price to suggest price points.
No.
Toby,
maybe on the follow-up question, can you cross both in the same survey? So that's actually the way I like to do it. When we do a conjoint survey, we can also drop in the 4 or 3 Van Westendorp questions, so that we kind of cross-check the different insights that we therefore generate. As you can read between the lines of what Matt just said, I'm personally also not like the biggest fan of Van Westendorp, just that you like the way you ask respondents, like for what price is this product a bargain, for what is it acceptably expensive, etc. It's just like a little bit more abstract, and also when we get the results back, would be interesting to know your experience about Van Westendorp. So when we get the results back, we often also see like very incoherent data, like the data point for the too cheap price point is actually higher than for the too expensive. So I think we all have experienced that, and this is just something that does not happen with Conjoint. It's like a more natural way, the way we base decisions on. So that's why, I think Van Westendorp has its kind of right to exist when it comes to very new products, or you're launching something that's not on the market yet. Then it could help to kind of narrow down the price range that you would put into a conjoint analysis. But kind of as a standalone methodology, I'm always a bit careful with using Van Westendorp.
Thank you. And second to last question, we got 2 more. Is shelf-based conjoint similar to a choice-based conjoint? Excuse me.
Yeah, it's actually the platform. It in terms of very similar survey design, it's just the respondent view is very different, and obviously shelf-based is very conducive to FMCG brands and companies. But it kind of, shelf is more used in the context of pricing, understanding price sensitivities and reactions to promotions and the various types of promotions and variations in product sizes. So delving into yield pricing. Whereas the conjoint study, as Toby mentioned, you can start to bring in less tangible elements of the product or the proposition into a conjoint, like the messaging or the claims or the benefits compared to your competitors' benefits and claims. So it's they're very similar.
Yeah, Megan, it sounds like shelf conjoint could be the topic for our next PPS webinar. We see like the demand is there, and I've seen like the working drafts that our team is currently working on really looks cool. So what we would really like to facilitate is that you get the feeling you get into a shop, you can pick the product from the shelf, you can look at it, and you can see then in different screens that like different products at different prices with different promotions. So that's what we would like to have on the platform. And I think I can also already ask the next question, which is this question is about this webinar is about conjoint analysis. Do we also perform Gaybook Ranger? So Gaybook Ranger, Van Westendorp, etc., as kind of standalone products, it's on our kind of prioritization list. We are working on that. So currently, when you subscribe to the EPIC Conjoint platform, it's really Conjoint, Van Westendorp to some degree is kind of the core product, and we are working very hard to bringing even more kind of pricing methodologies to the platform. So I would expect to have Van Westendorp, Gaybook Ranger, and Shelf probably within the next 6 months. And maybe that's also met when we come back with another webinar to introduce these solutions.
Sounds like a good plan. Totally.
Thank you, gentlemen, so very much. That answers all of the questions that everyone submitted during our webinar. But as I wanted to repeat, if you have any additional questions, we will be communicating with all of our registered attendees if you're watching live or in the playback. And we'll have your email address on file so you can receive the access to the playback link and the presentation deck. And within it, you can find ways to contact EPIC Conjoint for more information about a demonstration or to ask additional questions. And you can also find more information about the Professional Pricing Society. And with that, gentlemen, anything else from you all? We're going to wrap this one up. You did a great job.
Just say thank you very much, Megan, for a great organization of the webinar and for all the participants. Thank you for your time and lending us your ear and good questions. Hopefully we can touch base with you after.
Exactly. Thank you, Rishi, Niraj, for the great questions. We already said in the green room session before that webinars are great. We're getting all used to it. Maybe we will meet on in fact kind of city location based professional pricing society event one day. Would be great to catch up in real life, let's say.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think Megan's internet.